Happy January 27th. JLD here, and welcome to MicroStrategy Today. In this show, we talk about Michael Saylor buying more Bitcoin, the blackout period, is it happening, global liquidity, where we are in this cycle, which is so critical. We look at IBIT versus MicroStrategy Bitcoin buying since November 11th. You might be surprised. We also talk about DeepSeek and the implications on Bitcoin and technology in general. And speaking of technology, I have a 15-year-old video clip of Michael Saylor, and he's talking about tech disruption. It's so classic, and it's so relevant to today. You have to watch that. Remember, this is not financial advice, and make sure to comment below where you're watching from. Thank you so much, and let's get going. First off, it is Moonshot Mondays. So let's talk about our MSTR Catalyst Tracker. We have the January Fed meeting coming up in 2 days. What is Jerome Powell going to do? Is he going to listen to Donald Trump and lower rates, or is he going to keep rates the same, or is he going to increase rates? A lot of questions out there. And then just 4 days away, FTX is estimating a payout of $16.5 billion to customers. We'll see what they do with that $16.5 billion. And then just 13 days away, we have the MSTR Q4 2024 10K earnings report. This is going to send sparks and flames and I think bonfires throughout the entire industry. I think Michael Saylor has something really amazing up his sleeve. I have no idea what, but I cannot wait. Speaking of Michael Saylor, don't stop thinking about tomorrow. And here we go. We're expecting another green dot here. Michael Saylor wouldn't tease us like this. He bought more Bitcoin, period, end of story. And I do love Ben Workman's post here. Looks like more Bitcoin buying will be announced. Keep in mind, if the blackout period for MSTR is 2 weeks, then that would have started at market close on Wednesday. So they would have had 3 days this week to use the ATM potentially. The dates reported in the announcement Monday may show us what, if any, impact a potential blackout period has on their ATM activity. So again, we'll likely find out today, maybe tomorrow at the latest, when these Bitcoin buys were done. And if they were done after Wednesday, like on Thursday and Friday, then it does look like there will be no blackout period for MicroStrategy, which for someone like me, I'm fine with because I want to keep stacking Bitcoin. I want to keep increasing Bitcoin yield. So we'll see, but we will definitely keep reporting on that. Chris posts this greatest chart of the global liquidity cycle according to the CBC. And if this doesn't get you excited about where we're headed right now, to me, I love this chart. I can't wait to see it continue to just spike up because we know what a spike up in global liquidity means. It's great news for Bitcoin. It is great news for MicroStrategy. I thought this post was absolutely awesome. I just had to share this with you. HODL 15 Capital shares. Look at the purchase Bitcoin numbers since November 11th. Well, we can just look at the totals, 208,780 for MicroStrategy, while IBIT, which is taking all the people's money that send money to them to buy Bitcoin with, bought 141,867. So alone, one company, MicroStrategy, has bought more Bitcoin than the biggest Bitcoin ETF in the world by a long shot. IBIT and Blackrock, they are a long shot ahead of everybody else when it comes to the Bitcoin ETF, and MicroStrategy dominated them. 27,000 to 16, 51 to 21, 55 to 21, and the numbers just keep looking great. A couple negative outflow weeks for IBIT, none for MicroStrategy, of course, because MicroStrategy will never sell their Bitcoin. Let's move over to the fact that Dan Hillary is pointing out there's a lot of doom and gloom out there. Global liquidity is rising, as I shared in the earlier post. Trump and his entire team are talking about 0% capital gains on Bitcoin. Stay the course is my plan. And this is just Dan saying, guys, relax. Stop being just terrified day to day of the FUD that's out there in the world. Surround yourself with the people that are positive, that are optimistic, and that hold your viewpoints. And just continue to surround yourself with those individuals. I mean, even Dan posted the other day, he's like, wow, my X timeline is insane. It's crazy. It's hard for me to go on there. And I replied to him. I said, Dan, my X feed is amazing because I follow like a handful of people who are only positive about the beliefs that I hold, that Bitcoin is the best preservation of capital and that MicroStrategy is an incredible opportunity right now because of that. And that's just how I feel. So hope you're doing the same thing. Bitcoin Overflow says Trump post-inauguration scorecard. Ross freed. Saab 121 rescinded. OC 2.0 dismantling underway. Working group for digital assets. We got everything Bitcoin related we could reasonably expect. Maybe SBR comes later, maybe not. But stage is set for next wave of explosive growth. And I totally agree. Tim Kosman posted this from the Kobayashi letter. Let's get this straight. DeepSeek was built in under 2 months for less than 10 million, and now it's number one on the App Store. You got to learn a little bit about DeepSeek. If you haven't already, check it out. Download this app. Some interesting things going on. Tim is saying it's time to buy Bitcoin because he believes this is very bullish for Bitcoin, as does British HODL. DeepSeek is huge news and very positive for Bitcoin longer term. And then Stack Hodler, I wanted to get a little more detailed about this. DeepSeek is omega bullish for Bitcoin. NASDAQ is crashing pre-market and taking Bitcoin down with it, but this is a temporary correlation. The narrative is that DeepSeek is exposing just how overvalued U.S. tech stocks are. On the eve of an AI and robotics revolution, U.S. equities seem like the best game in town. But if Chinese companies can produce similar innovation at a fraction of the cost, what does that say about U.S. tech valuations? In my opinion, this will likely end up being a temporary sentiment reset, similar to the yen carry trade or war in the Middle East panic that served to shake out weak hands before the bull run could continue. But here's the bigger picture. We are headed into an era of unprecedented technological innovation, and businesses that look like sure winners one day will end up being disrupted overnight. Storing your value in equities will end up being more and more of a dangerous game. This DeepSeek shock could serve as a wake-up call to anyone who is planning on storing their life savings in equities over the next decade. Can you count on the businesses that you own not to be disrupted overnight? Which businesses will be able to maintain their advantage in an age of cheaper and cheaper AI and robotics? Well, that's why I buy indexes. When you buy the NASDAQ, you're betting on the USA. But what if China eats their lunch or the US rapidly devalues currency in which NASDAQ is denominated? These are difficult questions to answer, and they highlight the problem we all face: where to store our store of value for the long term. Bitcoin is a solution to the store of value problem. Bitcoin will not change. Bitcoin will not be disrupted, and it cannot be seized or debased. In an era of rapid change, Bitcoin's boring predictability is its biggest strength. Finite supply, new block every 10 minutes, and a security network tied to real-world energy expenditure that cannot be replicated. Equities are an artifice built upon the shifting sands of the market, vulnerable to the tremors of creative destruction. Bitcoin is a solid bedrock on which you want to build your financial future. This idea is far from understood and even further from being priced in. Equities are still the consensus store of value, but I expect to see more and more investors conclude that the coming technological revolution requires a new approach to storing value. History is full of examples of investor consensus changing. Investors used to store value in savings accounts, gold bars, war bonds, etc. The best ideas of previous eras always end up looking silly in the future. I think the idea of blindly investing in equity indexes will ultimately be seen as a stepping stone on the journey to finding the ultimate store of value assets, the best we had until Bitcoin. Let global companies rapidly innovate and drop prices for everyone. This should be something we celebrate, not fear, because it disrupts equity markets and takes down our store of value assets. Hold Bitcoin, celebrate creative disruption, and get outside. And wow, this reminds me of my bachelor party that I did a couple years ago to Chamonix. This actually might be Chamonix or somewhere close to it. It's absolutely a stunning place. Get outside, my friends. It is definitely a good thing to do. And Michael Saylor is going to end our post with: volatility is a gift to the faithful. Are you faithful? Ask yourself that question. Are you faithful to the premise that Bitcoin is the best preservation of capital in the world? Are you faithful that Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy are doing everything in their power to increase long-term value for the shareholders, for you and for me? Michael Saylor wants you to know that volatility is a gift to the faithful, because volatility is critical for MicroStrategy to become the company that we all know it can and should and will become. Now let's move on to an epic video. You don't want to miss this. This is a 15-ish year old video of Michael Saylor talking about tech disruption. It was prescient then, it's prescient now, it's relevant now. Take it away, Michael.
The big picture for me was punctuated this morning by this profound sense of disruption and anxiety I felt when I woke up and I looked around the room. And it's fascinating when you find yourself at a transition point or an inflection point in life, and you look backwards and you see all these things, objects, metaphors, processes that you live with that were so normal, so expected, and so comforting. And then you look forward and you can't imagine any of them being relevant to you ever again. I guess it's that sense you have when you transition from your life as a high school student to your life as a college student. You leave behind everything that you knew in your world, and you move into a new world where everything is different and strange. And that's what I felt this morning, because I got up, I looked around, and I saw a computer, and I thought to myself, since I got an iPad, I've probably sat down at a computer 2% as often. My usage of a computer went from 100 hours to 2 hours. 98% of what it used to do for me became irrelevant, and it's just sitting there gathering dust. And then I looked at a bunch of books, and I thought, in the last year, I haven't really felt a need or desire to buy a single book or carry a book. And I looked at magazines, and I thought, why would I ever take a magazine anywhere? And I looked at a bookshelf, and I thought, well, if I don't have a book, why do I have a bookshelf? And then I looked at the desk that the stuff was sitting on, the computer and the books, and there's a comic book there, and there was a magazine, and there was some paper. I thought, well, if I don't have any of those things, I don't need the desk. I looked at the trash can next to the desk, and I thought, well, if I don't have the desk and I don't have the paper, I don't have the books, I have nothing to throw away, so I don't need the trash can. And I looked at the chair in front of the desk, and I wondered why I would want the chair there. It went on like that as I just began to think about all the things in my life that I grew up with, that I found comforting, that might be representations of my ego or my self-worth or my erudition or affluence. A large library or a large desk or a nice chair or a big computer with a big screen. And I thought, well, if I don't have that to display, then what does my life consist of? And the fact that I felt that this morning when I got up, even today, is shocking, because I'm in the technology business for the last 20 years, so I shouldn't be feeling that, and yet I do. I feel a profound sense of disruption right now in my life. I'm building an apartment, and in the apartment, I'd laid out an area which was going to be a nice library. It'll have a lot of bookshelves and a nice table where I could put the large books on the table and chairs to sit around. And now I look at it and I think, well, what will I put in that library? And then I had another nice desk I'd set up, and I had these nice bookshelves right behind it. And then my architect designed them out. He looked at me and he said, well, you don't really need those anymore. So I just took them out. And so that's going on even in the last 12 months, that I'm finding that just basic architectural decisions don't make any sense anymore.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of MicroStrategy Today. Listen, this is looking like it's shaping up to be a tough week. Who knows? Bitcoin could bounce from here. It could keep grinding down. We don't know. But listen, we need to give some love, give some karma to MicroStrategy. So hit the like button to give some good karma. Comment below where you're watching from. Give some good karma vibes. We're going to need it. There's going to be up days and down days in our future. We're going to celebrate the ups, and we're going to weather the downs together, because remember, volatility is vitality. It is part of this journey. We are on this journey together. This show is not financial advice. And absolutely remember one key thing: there is no second best.
What's the second best? There is no second best.